Biology Part 223, Selection and Polygenic Inheritance. It has already been pointed out in Unit 38 that many of the organism's characteristics like height or body mass vary continuously rather than discontinuously, giving a normal distribution of the phenotypes. Natural selection can affect such variations in three different ways. Number one, stabilizing selection. Number two, directional selection. And number three, disruptive selection. Let's talk about them in detail. Number one, stabilizing selection. This occurs when there is selection against the extremes of the range. Many species of plants produce flowers at a particular time of the year, triggered by the changes in day length. Individuals with flowers earlier or later than the average are often far apart, and many fail to attract pollinating insects. Bees, for example, collect nectar selectively from the flowers which are abundant. Therefore, individuals which flower at other times are less likely to be pollinated and will leave the fewer offsprings in the next generation. Stabilizing selection ensures that the majority of the individuals of the particular species will continue to flower at approximately at the same time. Human infants mortality provides another example of stabilizing selection. The optimum body mass at birth is 3.6 kilogram. Babies which are heavier than this, as well as those which are lighter, show an increased mortality. Thus, babies of every size are selected for, and babies at either extreme are selected against. Although improvements in medical treatments make survival much more likely. Directional selection. This is number two, directional selection. This results in a change in the phenotype in one particular direction. Many predator-prey relationships are likely to have evolved in this way. The cheetah, which is faster, is more likely to be successful in killing prey, while the antelope, which is faster, is more likely to evade capture. Selection will always act in direction of the increased speed. Number three, disruptive selection. This involves selection against intermediate phenotype in favor of the extremes, and appears to be less common, although it may play an important role in the speciation to be discussed in the next tutorial. A fascinating recent investigation of spawning behavior in Pacific salmon, which breed only once in their lifetime, show that the spawning males can be of two types. Most males are large and aggressive and fight vigorously amongst themselves for a position close to a female. However, in many of the cases, as we elaborate them and discuss them, the populations or proportion of much smaller males called jacks ascend to the river and, capitalizing on their small size, sneak between the rocks of the riverbed until they are close to a spawning female. When the female releases her eggs, these males release sperm and may be successful in fertilizing up to 40% of the offsprings. Males of an intermediate size could not compete effectively with either of the existing type. Isolation and the origin of species. What is a species? It is easy to distinguish a cat from a dog or a mouse from an elephant, and simple to explain that they are a number of different species or kind of organisms. Not all differences between the species are equally obvious, and although species are normally distinct and separate in nature, it is surprisingly difficult to provide a completely satisfactory species definition. Differences in structure and shape or color are often used to field the biologist to distinguish species, but are not useful in developing general species concept. A tadpole and a frog, or a caterpillar and a butterfly would be recognized as individuals belonging to the same species, as would the highly colored male pleasant and the drab female, but the visible differences involved are much larger than between some types of organisms, which are classified as separate species.